Republican presidential candidate and senator from the great state of Florida, Marco Rubio, is here with us on the couch. And for the first time in history, Senator, you're officially outnumbered. Welcome.
Well, yeah, it's great to be here.
We're very happy to have you.
I love the show. I've seen it on TV a few times, so I'm excited to be here.
You watch Outnumbered?
My kids are excited to be watching this. Yeah,
all four of your kids, right?
Absolutely. Well, hopefully my ninth grader right now is taking her last final exam and hopefully doing really well.
Good luck.
I know. If she's watching, if something went wrong in school today.
And your beautiful wife, we're hoping maybe one day we can get her on the couch with us as well.
She'd like to do this. Yeah. She'd like to outnumber me, absolutely.
Yeah. We want to hear the stories from her on how you met, and, you know, she's beautiful. What pickup lines Marco Rubio used?
I didn't have any pickup lines. It's all in my book if people want to buy it. American Son, it's out there. But, yeah, we'd love to have her here.
Well, the single guys will be highlighting that section.
Yes, exactly. Take tips, because she is gorgeous. All right, let's get right to it. The Republican race for president about to get even more crowded. Former Texas Governor Rick Perry is set to throw his hat into the ring in the next 30 minutes, while former Florida Governor Jeb Bush is expected to officially announce June 15th. The governors will be the 10th and 11th Republicans to enter the race for the White House. All this as a brand new Fox News poll shows it's anyone's race in a jam-packed Republican field. Governors Bush and Scott Walker lead the poll, each at 12%, followed by Dr. Ben Carson. And Senators Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and our one lucky guy, Senator Rubio, first and last place in the poll that you see here, separated by only single digits. But when it comes to who Republican primary voters would definitely vote for, Governor Walker tops the list at 22%, followed by Dr. Carson and Senator Rubio, both tied at 21%. Governor Bush and Senator Cruz round out the top 5. All right, so after today, Senator, there will be 11 in the race. What's your plan to break out of that poll and differentiate yourself?
Well, after today being on the show, my numbers are going to go up to the You know, it's interesting. We never had a race like this before. And I always tell people as a Republican, I'm glad that we have so many good candidates. The Democrats are struggling to come up with one. So I think it's great that we have so many good candidates. I believe this field is going to produce the next president, potentially the next vice president, maybe a future president, and cabinet officers. And we're going to have a vibrant, spirited primary where I think competition is going to drive excellence and ultimately give us a stronger nominee.
So you're not fearful that the growing number of GOP candidates is going to hurt your party?
I don't. I think that we're going to have a very good debate. These are quality people that are going to be well-financed, have a good message. We agree on a lot of issues. We have some differences. We'll talk about those. But I think from a competitive process like this, you get a better nominee, someone who's been tested, someone who's had to spend time working with people to fine-tune both their ideas and their delivery. And I think competition drives excellence, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, you know, one of the ways in which you do stand out with the polling is your ability to scoop up the younger voters. And I'm curious to know your thoughts about reaching out to them and who you consider them really to be.
Well, it's an interesting question because it's a major issue for our country. We have a lot of young people today in America, for example, that went to school and got a degree because their whole life they were told if you did that, that was a guarantee to a better life. So they did it. Now they borrowed a bunch of money, so they owe these loans, and they cannot find a job in what they studied for. Part of that is they got the wrong degree, and that's unfortunate because in today's new economy, it's not just about having a degree, it's about having the right one. And then part of it is America's become less globally competitive economically. A lot of those better jobs are now being created in other countries due to these rapid changes in our economy. We're going to have to address that. We need policies that make us more globally competitive again.
Yeah. So speaking of reaching out to different groups, there's an African-American pastor in south side of Chicago who's invited a lot of the presidential candidates to come, including all the Republican candidates. And Rand Paul so far has been the only one to go. And he's basically saying, look, we always have African-Americans just lining up with Democrats unquestionably, and I think we need to start hearing from Republicans. Is this something you would consider doing?
It is.
Do you think the Republican Party needs to be doing?
I don't know if we've received that invitation.
Yeah.
Obviously something we'll look at carefully, but we do want to do more of that. We think, I personally feel, as if I have a message that appeals to all Americans. It's not a message designed to help one group versus another. I think that the message we've talked about and the message we've outlined is one that will appeal to people from different walks of life, different parts of the country, who find themselves at different stages in the economic situation today. So I would look forward to opportunities to have venues like that to discuss our policies.
Senator, what do you say to people who may criticize you for not having executive experience? You know, you're a senator, you obviously do have experience and you know your state very well, but what do you say to them who not just say you may not have that executive experience like a Walker does, or maybe a Perry who's jumping in today, but also what do you do to combat that anti-Washington climate right now?
Well, a couple points on that. It's not entirely accurate. I was the Speaker of the Florida House, and I administratively ran the Florida House, had hundreds of employees and millions of dollars in the budget. But the second point is executive experience is about hiring the right people, giving them a vision and a direction, and then holding them accountable to deliver on that. That's something we did in the Florida House. It's something I do now. Beyond it, I would argue about the Washington question. Look, I've been in Washington for 4 years, but I'm not from there. Before that, I served 9 years in the legislature of the third largest state in the country. I was a majority leader, majority whip, Speaker of the House, and that really is where the majority of my public service has been geared. But you also need people that understand what's happening in Washington and why it's so broken and why our federal policies today are threatening to leave our country behind in a rapidly changing 21st century economy and geopolitical threats that we face.
You know, I'm really curious about you, though, just as a person, and kind of getting to know you and what you want America to know about you and your family. Is there anything in particular you think we don't know about you?
Well, I don't know, but by the time this campaign is over, how both my opponents and my allies will have taken care of that. But I always tell my story, not because I want people to have insight into why it is I'm passionate about both the country and about public service. You know, my parents came here from another country. They were born in Cuba. They refused to accept the idea that they could only be what their parents were. So they came to the only country in the world where people like them could have a chance. They had no advanced education, barely spoke the language, had no money, but they found jobs. My dad became a bartender. My mother was a cashier, a maid. She worked at a factory. And working those jobs, they were able to achieve the American dream. They owned a home. We took vacations. They raised 4 kids and left all of them better off, and they retired with dignity. And I know that that would have been impossible anywhere else. I want us to still be the country where that story is possible. And I fear that in the 21st century, it's become harder than ever for people to achieve that through a combination of bad policies, but also dramatic changes in the world. I mean, our economy is just dramatically different than it was 15 years ago. We're globally competing. Technology has changed jobs. It's eliminated jobs that people once did and replaced them with new jobs that require advanced skills. For my parents to do today what they did 25 or 30 years ago, my dad would have had to become an electrician. My mother would have had to have been a dental hygienist or a paralegal. And we need to meet those needs, because these changes have been very disruptive.
They have.